The scar still burns, even after so many years. It's not a visible mark on the skin, but it resides in a much deeper place, a tight knot in the memory that unravels and rebuilds itself with each memory of that fateful day. To the world, I was Zoe, the studious daughter, always with her head in the books, dedicated to helping around the house, the girl who got impeccable grades without fuss. To them, my parents, I never really knew what I was. Maybe a convenient appendage, useful when they needed something, but always overshadowed by the supposedly special brilliance of my brother, Lucas. Ever since I was little, the scale of attention has always tipped in his favor. If I got an A, it was a very good, you did your homework. If Lucas got a 7, it was a reason to celebrate. See, he's trying hard. I remember countless Christmases when he would receive the most expensive toy, the latest generation of video games, while I would receive an educational book, even though I had expressed a desire for something different. There was no explicit malice. Perhaps it was just a silent conviction that he needed more encouragement, more opportunities, while I, with my apparent autonomy and ease in studying, would fend for myself. This dynamic intensified when my grandparents' savings account became the focus of yet another family conflict. It was money that I had carefully saved, each coin representing an effort, a renunciation of small desires. Lucas had also received a generous amount, but the money slipped through his fingers like water, invested in designer clothes, noisy parties, and electronics that soon became obsolete. Then came the study project abroad. Lucas, who had already embarked on similar adventures with poor results, claimed to have found the course of his dreams, a unique opportunity to finally find himself. My parents, their eyes filled with tears of renewed hope, embraced the idea with fervor. The problem? Their money was no longer enough. The bomb exploded on a Sunday afternoon in the kitchen, while I was washing the dishes from lunch. My mother cleared her throat, hesitant, and my father crossed his arms, a harbinger of something unpleasant to come. "Zoe, daughter, your brother has this chance," my mother began, her voice carrying a tone that always put me on alert. My father added, "We need your help. Your grandparents' savings." I felt the ground disappear beneath my feet. It was my money, the fruit of my history, my savings. I looked at them in disbelief. "But this money is for my studies. I want to study engineering." The answer came like a blow. "Zoe, be reasonable," my father said, with that inflection in his voice that brooked no argument. "It's your brother's future that's at stake. He needs this opportunity to grow up, to become someone." My mother added with forced gentleness, "You're so smart, honey. You'll make money again. Lucas, he needs this boost." The injustice cut through the air like a knife. The words I wanted to scream got stuck in my throat, turning into a knot of hurt and resentment. That moment crystallized my position in the family, always in the background, always sacrificed for the sake of my brother's supposed needs. My refusal to hand over my savings had immediate and painful consequences. I was accused of selfishness, of not having any consideration for the family. Amid heated arguments and silent tears, the decision was made. I was no longer welcome in that house. The door closed behind me that night, taking away not only my clothes and some belongings, but also the illusion of belonging to that family nucleus. In that icy moment, as I wandered down the street with a backpack on my back and my heart in pieces, the seed of revenge began to germinate, mixed with the bitter need to prove my worth, not to them, but to myself. The years that followed were of intense dedication and growth. The engineering degree, earned with great effort and Miguel's unconditional support, was a bittersweet victory. The joy of professional achievement mixed with the persistent shadow of the family past. Even from a distance, the memory of the injustice suffered still lingered in some corner of my mind, although Miguel's constant presence and the construction of our own story helped me focus on the present and the future. Our passion for technology and innovation drove us to go beyond our jobs. In our free time, we nurtured a bold dream to create our own engineering company. The first meetings took place at the small kitchen table in our apartment, scribbling ideas on napkins and enthusiastically debating solutions. We believed in our potential and in the synergy of our complementary skills. Miguel, with his strategic vision and talent for business, and I, with my technical expertise and attention to detail, formed an unbeatable duo. The first years of our company were challenging. We worked tirelessly, investing every penny and facing the uncertainty of the market. There were moments of doubt and extreme fatigue, but our mutual faith and belief in our project kept us strong. Miguel was always by my side, with an encouraging look and words of support that dispelled any insecurity. His confidence in me was a constant fuel, especially in those moments when the old voice of doubt, planted long ago, tried to manifest itself. He celebrated each small victory as if it were the greatest achievement in the world, making me feel truly seen and valued. And then, the unthinkable happened. Our engineering technology company not only prospered, but flourished in a way we never imagined. We became a reference in the market, recognized for the quality of our projects and our innovative approach. The small initial office gave way to a modern and busy building, full of talented employees who shared our vision. Looking back and seeing the path we had traveled filled me with a mixture of pride and disbelief. We had built something solid, something of our own, based on hard work, dedication, and the love that united us. With the company's success, we began to attend engineering technology events and conferences. It was an opportunity to present our work, network, and stay up to date on the latest market trends. At one of these grand events, held in an imposing convention center, life had a surprise in store for me that made my heart stop for a moment. As I was chatting animatedly with a potential client, my gaze wandered over the crowd and fixed on two familiar faces. My parents. There they were, aged, with deeper wrinkles and an air of fatigue that I had never noticed before. The shockwave that hit me was so strong that I felt dizzy. A jumble of feelings washed over me. Surprise, anger, a hint of curiosity. What were they doing there? Before I could fully process the information, I spotted another familiar face next to them. Julia, my old coworker at the cafe, a smart and ambitious girl who also dreamed of a career in technology. She was elegant, with a radiant smile on her face, and arm in arm with Lucas, my brother. Reality hit me with a thud. Lucas and Julia were together. Married, probably. The information hit me with the force of a punch. The world around me seemed to slow down as I tried to assimilate that unlikely scene. Julia, my colleague, married to my brother, the one who indirectly kicked me out of the house. At that moment, the mask of indifference that I had built over the years began to crack. The old hurt, which I believed I had overcome, resurfaced with overwhelming intensity. The unexpected reunion with my family, especially the realization of Lucas's relationship with Julia, left me stunned and with a whirlwind of unanswered questions. What else did I not know? What other twists and turns did fate have in store for me? Here is the fourth block of the story, exploring the consequences of the reunion and the unfolding of the truth. That chance encounter at the technology event left me disturbed for days. The image of Lucas and Julia together, smiling carefreely, repeated itself in my mind like a movie on loop. How had this happened? Why had my parents never mentioned their relationship? And why was Julia, who had always seemed like an upright person to me, married to my brother, knowing the story of my expulsion? The answers to some of these questions began to emerge from an unexpected source. A few weeks after the event, I received a message from Julia. It was an invitation for coffee. I hesitated for a moment. What did she want? A confrontation? An explanation? Curiosity and a glimmer of hope of understanding what had happened overcame my initial reluctance. We met in a quiet coffee shop, far from the hustle and bustle of the technology world. Julia seemed nervous, her restless eyes avoiding mine. She began by apologizing for the silence during the event, explaining that she had not seen me in the crowd. But soon the truth began to emerge, in a flow of words charged with emotion. She said that after I left home, Lucas and my parents always referred to me as the daughter who had no sense and who had run away to another country without giving any news. Julia, who knew me from the cafe and had always had a good impression of me, found the story strange and inconsistent with the person she remembered. She tried to get more information from Lucas, but he always dodged her, changing the subject or accusing her of being suspicious. Over time, Julia's doubts only grew. She noticed Lucas's lack of friends, his financial dependence on his parents, and his professional instability. He had started a few projects, but none of them had come to fruition, always with the excuse that he needed time to find his calling. Julia, with her analytical mind and sharp intuition, felt that there was something wrong with that story. The breaking point came when Julia found some old photos of me in Lucas's apartment. They were from my college days, when we were still friends at the cafe. When she confronted him, Lucas finally confessed the truth about my expulsion, but he painted a distorted picture, portraying me as an ungrateful and ambitious person who had abandoned my family for money. Julia's disappointment was profound. She felt deceived and betrayed by the person she had married. Little by little, the love she felt for Lucas faded, giving way to frustration and resentment. She withdrew, seeking support from friends and family, and finally made the difficult decision to separate. The separation was not amicable. Lucas, who had never had to worry about supporting himself, found himself lost and without resources. He had stopped working, claiming that he would take care of Julia's company's finances, a promise that never actually came to fruition. With the divorce, he lost not only his wife, but also the financial security she provided. Julia finished her story with tears in her eyes, expressing her sadness for having believed Lucas's lies and her admiration for the strong, successful woman I had become. She regretted not having looked for me sooner, but Lucas's and my parents' manipulation had kept her away. Sometime after our meeting, I was surprised by a phone call. It was Lucas. His voice was hesitant, almost unrecognizable. He asked to meet me. I was reluctant again, but a strange curiosity drove me to accept. We met in a quiet park, away from prying eyes. Lucas was different. His expensive clothes had been replaced by simple pieces, and there was a look of humility on his face. He began by asking for forgiveness, the words stumbling in his throat. He recognized how much he had been spoiled and how the life of extravagance, encouraged by my parents, had made him a selfish and irresponsible person. He told me that after the separation and the loss of financial comfort, he had been forced to look for a job. He was working in a bookstore near where he lived. To his surprise, he had discovered a new sense of purpose and satisfaction in honest work. He realized that luxuries and ostentation did not bring genuine happiness, and that the value lay in building something with one's own effort. He also mentioned that my parents were facing financial difficulties, as Lucas's reckless spending over the years had consumed much of their savings. At that moment, looking at my brother, for the first time in many years, I felt something other than anger and resentment. There was sadness in his eyes, a genuine recognition of his mistakes. I did not feel an immediate desire to forgive him, but the bitterness that had consumed me had diminished somewhat. His journey, forced by circumstances, seemed to have taught him valuable lessons. That encounter with Lucas left a mark on me. It was not an instant forgiveness, because the scars of family rejection were too deep to be erased by a single apology. However, hearing his heartfelt words, noticing the genuine change in his behavior, and learning about the difficulties my parents were facing stirred a complex mix of feelings in me. There was a hint of compassion, perhaps even a hint of relief that the consequences of their choices had led them to a new perspective. I returned home that afternoon to Miguel's welcoming arms. I shared with him the details of my encounter with Lucas and the news about my parents. Miguel, as always, listened to me with patience and understanding, without pressuring me to feel or do anything I wasn't ready for. His unconditional support was a constant beacon in my life, proof that I had built a family based on love, respect, and mutual admiration. Our life continued its peaceful and prosperous course. The company continued to grow, providing us with a comfortable life and the freedom to invest in projects that we were passionate about. Our home was a haven of peace, filled with books, music, and the intelligent and loving conversations that we always shared. I looked at Miguel and felt immense gratitude for having him by my side, for having found a partner who valued me for who I was, with my scars and my achievements. Time, relentless in its journey, continued to weave the tapestry of my life. I kept a respectful distance from my biological family. Lucas would occasionally send short messages, sharing his discoveries at the bookstore and demonstrating a humility that I had never witnessed before. My parents never contacted me directly again. Perhaps pride, perhaps shame, kept them silent. On a sunny late afternoon, as I watched the sunset from the balcony of our apartment, a gentle melancholy invaded me. I thought about my entire journey, from the pain of being expelled to the fulfillment of my dreams. The tears that ran down my face were not of sadness, but of a strange form of liberation. I had walked a difficult path, marked by losses and challenges, but I had emerged stronger, more resilient, and, above all, master of my own destiny. I looked at my hands, the same ones that had once washed dishes in a cafe to save every penny, the same ones that had scribbled innovative projects until exhaustion. They were hands that had built not only a successful company, but also a full and meaningful life. At that moment, I understood that revenge, which had once been a dark whisper in my mind, had naturally dissipated, replaced by something much more powerful: overcoming. The greatest victory was not seeing them face the consequences of their choices, but rather my ability to flourish despite them. I learned that true triumph lies in rebuilding yourself, in finding your own voice, and in creating the life you want, regardless of the obstacles that are thrown in your path. Fulfillment was not just about professional success or material comfort, but about the inner peace I had achieved. It was about knowing who I was, the value I placed on myself, and the unconditional love I shared with Miguel. The journey had been painful, but each obstacle I had overcome had shaped me, teaching me valuable lessons about resilience, self-sufficiency, and the importance of choosing one's own family. And as the sun set on the horizon, painting the sky with shades of orange and purple, I knew with a calm certainty that my story was not about what was taken from me, but about what I had achieved. It was the story of a daughter who was expelled, but who found within herself the strength to build a bright future and to learn that true revenge is, in fact, the sweetest of liberations. What did you think of Zoe's story? Would you have done the same as her? Tell us in the comments. If you liked the story, like and share this video and subscribe for more inspiring stories.